Hello. So, in class, we study a book wrote by Paul Auster, The Brooklyn Follies. And we had to study a passage, the passage 2 of the book. This passage. So, before I describe this passage and analyze this passage, I would like to recap what happened in the overture of the book. Because the overture is the opening of the book. It's a passage very important because it explains the character, the way of life of character, and the future of the book. Okay, so in the overture we know the main character, we named Nathan Glass precisely. And we can know he has a poor life. We can deduct he has a poor life. Because just at the beginning of the overture, he said he's looking for a flat. So, if he hasn't a flat, where does he sleep? We don't know. More, he hasn't job. So, he hasn't job. He hasn't flat. What's this life? Furthermore, it the concert. He has concert, so it's a miserable person. He hasn't. He has a very poor life. So after this overture, I won't read the rest of the book because I think it won't be funny. But whereas the title said the Brooklyn Follies, Follies means. It will happen events, it will be funny maybe, but for the moment, anything. So, now I will begin to describe the passage 2. I will read just 2 sentences, but not all the passage because it's a very long passage. So, I begin. I introduced him to Poe when he was 11, and because Poe was one of the writers he had dealt with in his senior thesis, it was only natural that he should want to tell me about his paper hand, only natural that I should want to listen. So, just before to begin more precisely the description, we know at the end of the overture that Nathan has a nephew named Tom Wood. Tom, it's a very sympathetic person and has the same taste Nathan. He likes books and wrote books too, because Nathan wrote books. So, at the beginning, Nathan liked to present to Tom famous writers, and he began to speak to Poe. Edgar Allan Poe. Poe was a famous writer, an American writer, and he studied in the University of Virginia, but he had a problem with money, he hadn't a job, he was a poor life at the beginning of his life, but he began to write books and later to write reviews in a newspaper. And one time he wrote The Crow. It was very successful, and he wrote he won a lot of money. Personally, it was a very intelligent personality. He wanted to create American literature. He liked to create the American literature, a new literature. It was a good idea. So Nathan speak about Poe, but later he speaks about another famous writer, Thoreau, Henry David Thoreau. Thoreau was too a writer, but more, he was a philosopher, a poet, and wrote essays. So it was a very intelligent person like Edgar Allan Poe. and he philosophed on the nation and the human conditions. So he was a humanitarian person. He was very sympathetically person. We can imagine, just imagine, and an intelligent character too. More, he studied to Harvard, the famous English school. So the passage, it's a dialogue between Nathan and Tom. They speak about literature, and Nathan explained to Tom in the second part of the passage on this passage a lot of things about the two writers who were Thoreau and Poe. He explains that Poe and Thoreau were very important people at the whole time, because they had a lot of idea for the America, and they believe in America, and he explains to Tom what was the idea, and say the difference between Poe and Thoreau. Thoreau was simplicity, just simplicity person, whereas Poe was artifice and the gloom of mind chambers. So it's the difference between the two. During a long time, when he speak, Nathan explained in what believed the two writers, what were the ideas of the two writers, and what are the project of the two writers. And Tom is very wow, you know a lot of things about the two characters. How do you do? Because we can suppose Nathan read a lot of books, because if he hasn't job, if he hasn't flat, if he is ill, he can just read, no more. And later of the chapter 2, on the passage 2, after this scene, in the book, we can know Tom had a difficult family too, like Nathan. His mother was divorced, a difficult family. But he had a place on the Los Angeles Times, a very famous newspaper, like the New York Times. And Nathan is very happy for him, because he has a job. And later, after some months, when Nathan is working on the street, he saw sitting on the street Tom. He was very shocked, and he said, "What are you doing? Why are you sitting here? I thought you were to Los Angeles for your newspaper." And he was very shocked. And he said, and Nathan said, "Oh, you can stay here. Come with me." And it's the first events happen in the story. So, same after the overture, I won't be read the rest of the book. Now I'm more interesting, because I think it will happen some events, and I think the story will be more funny, yes. And we will know what happened to Tom. Why is here? Okay. Thank you.